All right, we're here with Coach Craig, and he is going to show us how he's going to make this sexy time steak. So it definitely looks a little bit different than what a lot of you guys are used to. So, Coach, what have you done to our steak?
So for the last 3 days, we've had this aged in the fridge, basically just exposed. Just leave it in there. This morning, roughly around noon or so, I put some kosher salt on it. Let it sit in the fridge for the last couple hours like that. Now we're basically going to wash it off, get it as dry as possible. We're going to rub some garlic on there, put some salt and pepper on, and then chuck it in the freezer for about 30 to 45 minutes just to get that last dryness out. When you have the big restaurant ovens and grills and stuff like that, they really dry it out as soon as it hits it because it's so hot. We can't get it that hot, so basically we're going to try to dry it out as best we can.
All right, let's go to it.
All right.
You'll have to excuse our mess here.
First, we're just going to wash it off. Get all that extra kosher salt that was on there, kind of wash off and everything.
And why was the kosher salt on there? Just to try and pull more moisture out today?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And you can do that the night prior before if you want. I feel here in Colorado, since we're fairly dry, it's probably not as big a deal. So.
Okay.
Especially since it's been aging in the fridge as well. So.
Right.
We're really just going to try and dry this up as best we can. And I think this was about 3 days. I was flipping it every day or so.
Okay.
Seems like that's probably about the limit that you can put in there for aging. As you can see, it's getting a little bit coagulated on blood and stuff in there. So.
Right.
I think that's probably about our limit on aging.
All right. And why do we age the meat anyway?
It just kind of tenderizes it and gives it a little bit different flavor.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's breaking down a little bit, so it's just going to be, you know, this thing's going to melt in your mouth even more than it would normally.
Right, exactly.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back, and as you can see, this steak has been altered. It's been salted, peppered, and a few other things. We had a little technical glitch that screwed up, and we had to lose a bunch of film, so we're going to go back and just tell you what we did. So, Coach Craig, we left off, you had dried the meat.
Yep.
You had taken that meat, you set it down here.
Yep.
And then what did you do to the meat after that? You've got some garlic in your hand.
So basically we got some half garlic here. You just rub along the steak here as best you can on both sides. Mm-hmm. So we took that, flipped it over, rubbed that on both sides. Pretty good.
Right.
You can get the sides a little bit if you want as well. After that, just took some salt and pepper. Doused it on the steak pretty good, and now we're just going to stick it in the freezer.
Okay. And that on that technique that you used, you went, you get it here, you went across one direction, making sure you coated everything, and then you went
this direction,
perpendicular to it, right, and again, covering every inch of it, and any of the sides that has exposed meat, you did the same thing.
Yep.
Then that was fresh ground pepper that you ground over the top of it.
Yep.
And you can see it's not, you know, it's not like he coated it, went crazy over it, and then just put a fair amount of salt on there. You can see it, and that's just going to help dry it out a little bit more, kind of help those juices mix with the garlic, I assume, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And then we put it in the freezer after that, right? So I guess they didn't lose all that much. Let's put it in the freezer then.
Yep.
All right.
So this is just going to help dry that steak out so we get a good sear here a little bit once we sear that.
And how long are we leaving it in here?
30 to 45 minutes, no more than 45.
Outstanding. All right, we'll pick it up when we bring it out after 45 minutes with Coach Craig, and we're gonna cover a little bit of the background of this steak and what we're doing here.
Yep.
So go for it.
So basically, I got a Wagyu ribeye. Ribeye tends to be about the best flavor. If you look at the 4-Hour Chef and Precision Nutrition, I'm basically doing a combination recipe of these two. And that tends to be what works the best with us. So right now we're just going to pull the steak out of the freezer.
All right.
Let's yank that out. So it's been in here about 45 minutes or so. I don't want to get too much longer. I'm going to set this to the side. You can see the burner over here. We've got that heated up. We're just going to let that go for about 5 minutes, get as hot as possible. And while that's going, I've got the oven set to 200. Now I'm just going to put a little bit of olive oil in here. So you want a wood cutting board would be ideal. And we're just going to cut up some basil. So we get this cut up. We're just going to take a little piece of this, and toss that into the olive oil. And basically, after we pull our steak completely out, we're going to plop it onto here.
Alrighty. So there's a lot of different kind of layers of flavor and kind of preparation and treatment that you put on this steak.
Yep. And here we're just going to kind of ground this fresh basil into the olive oil.
Very nice. That releases some of the juices, lets the spice and the oil mix.
So we'll leave that right there. This is probably getting about hot enough. This is going to start getting hot, so we'll have to use a mitt for it. You see we've got some herbs over here, some rosemary, and this one had both rosemary and thyme in it. And we're going to use this here in a second as a bed on the skillet here.
All right.
Let's go ahead and drop. I'm using ghee. You could use some kind of organic butter. Doesn't really matter too much. I tried to heat this up a little bit to get it soft, but it's not quite soft enough. So we're going to toss that on there. So we know that we got it warm enough.
All right. We've got the smoke and we've got the fan. I'm going to come over here and turn it on.
Yep.
We've opened the window and uh-oh. What's going on with our fan? You'd think I'd know how to run this. It's mine. Okay. Woo!
Looks like that may have gotten
Check that out.
not quite enough.
All right. So big old dollop in there, and that's a little warm, isn't it?
Yeah, it's probably a little bit too warm, but
and turning it down.
yeah, so you can see that's going to burn up, so we let it go a little bit, probably too long on there. Let's see if it's cooled off a little bit here in a second. Looks like it's about right now. So steak is going to go on there immediately. Everything from here on out is fast and furious.
All right.
I'm just going to let that sit for about 30 to 60 seconds. Whew.
So obviously this gets pretty smoky, but this is what we're doing is we're searing the daylights out of the top and bottom of the steak, and that kind of seals everything in.
It also helps caramelize the flavor a little bit.
It
More so
definitely
than
does.
sealing it in, so pretty good.
All right.
Let's get a little bit on the sides if we can. The steak itself isn't too hot, so it's not a huge deal.
Yeah, it hasn't been in there long enough.
We just want to try and get a little bit on the sides if we can. Alright, so we're going to pull this off and turn off the burner.
All right. So now it looks like we've traumatized the daylights out of the steak. We've come over, we've got the rosemary and thyme, and he's setting that in there. And this is creating a bed that is going to keep the steak off of the meat, or I'm sorry, the steak off of the metal itself. There we go.
Actually, I'm going to keep this one out.
Yep.
So that
Reserve one or two for later on, you'll see why. Now we have the digital meat thermometer, and he sticks it right in there. And this comes, let's show the folks real quick.
Yep.
We've got a cord, you'll see comes down around and comes to this black bit here, and you can see the center is still very, very cold. Boy, that smells good.
Yeah.
And then we have this remote here that it goes to, and what we'll do is we'll set a temperature. We're going to cover that in a minute, and that temperature is what we're going to I'm sorry, when it hits that temperature, it's going to beep and let us know that it's done. Now you're putting some more ghee on the top of the steak.
Yep.
And I'm in the light, so I'm going to come around. And that's just going to melt, of course, down, on, and around and really add to that flavor. I got to tell you that smells so good right now with those herbs there. So, okay.
And, toss this in the oven.
All right.
So we've got that at 200. We're just going to stick it right in here.
And that's on the lower third of the oven.
Yep.
You can see with that thermometer, we just close the door right on it.
That's it, guys.
Okay.
We'll see it here in about 60 minutes or so. You can see I got a little bit of smoke in the ice, but once that hits temperature at 135 is what we're doing, and that's a medium.
Okay.
After we pull it out, we're going to let it sit for about 5 to 10 minutes or so. You guys will see that here in a little bit. We're going to cover it with tin foil on a nice warm plate. But once it hits temperature, that's it. We're just going to yank it out and toss it on there real quick, and then we'll go from there.
So now let's make sure we get all the pertinent facts here. So if we come over here, we are cooking this at 200 degrees.
Yep.
200 degrees for 60 minutes.
Roughly, could be 45, could be 60, just depends on the thickness of your steak.
Okay, and the thing that I love about this is that we're gonna know because this thing's gonna beep at us.
Yep.
Okay, beautiful.
You see the temperature already rising. It's already up another 10 or so degrees since when we started.
Yeah,
so
it was about 42 earlier, so.
Yep.
Alrighty, well, we'll pick it up when this beeps at us.